Do all those notes you play miss the mark? Do those big bar chords sound like a bull in a china shop? So let's slow down, find a smarter approach to making great music. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of the Play Guitar Podcast. I am Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and check out the description for all of the links from the show. How are you doing today? It's wonderful to spend time, and I appreciate you welcoming me into your day. We're going to talk about something that I've been dealing with in coaching that I thought you might value too, and that is playing too many notes. And this goes for both rhythm guitar players and lead guitar players. It is a problem when you get to the stage where it's easy to play up and down the patterns. What do you want to do? Well, you want to play those patterns, right? You want to play up and down the entire pattern when you get a chance to. When you get to the stage where it's easy to strum all your big open chords or your big bar chords, what do you want to do then? You want to play them, right? You want to play all of those things that you worked really, really hard from top to bottom. But what I'm proposing for you today, I know this is crazy, is that in using everything that you have all of the time, you might be missing the sweet spot in the song or over the backing track. So today we're going to take a look at how you can use the things that you worked so hard to learn in ways that create great music and not just exercises. We're going to talk about limiting ourselves, making some decisions on what we're going to play. And these things do not have to be complicated. Some of the best melodies, licks, riffs, they don't use all of the notes. They only use a few of the notes in a certain way, in a way that communicates to people. We need to have a reason to do what we're going to do. A reason. Yes, we need to think about it a little bit. When you have a reason, you communicate a sense of direction that shows confidence. Let's talk about scale notes. The biggest thing we have, the aimless guitar solo. The solo that sounds like it's just going up and down. It's like practice. One of the reasons great melodies don't use that many notes is because people don't relate to that. They don't relate to tons of notes all the time. Even in shred guitar, there's a blend of melodies and the virtuosity and the waterfall of notes. It goes back and forth. We need something to latch on to when we listen. And then the scales can take us somewhere else from there. All the chord notes. One of the most liberating things I learned as a new guitar player is you don't have to play the chords just like the book says. You don't have to do it. In fact, when you get to know how chords are made, how they're constructed, you realize that the guitar chords you've already learned are using a lot of doubles. There are several G's. There's 3 G's in this G chord right there. Doubling, tripling notes in lots of different chords. Not every song calls for that. Not every song calls for big, huge blocky chords with lots of doubles and tripled notes in them. Sometimes smaller 3-note triads, or even just 2-note fragments, never played a root note in that. Not once. I played bits of chords and not the root note for all 3 of the chords that I just played over right there. Didn't need that. Those are fragments, 2 notes of the chords, and they fit much nicer And they call attention to themselves when they're not surrounded with all of those other filler notes, the big chord stuff. How about bar chords? Have you ever noticed when you have to jump around the guitar neck a lot, it has a certain sound to it? So let's say we had an F chord and we're going to go to a C chord, right? So when a lot of times someone who really learns these first open position E bar chords, E-shaped bar chords, you'll see them using them for everything. You hear how far apart those chords sound. It's a huge. It sounds like it looks like it's a huge jump there. What if I did an F chord here, or actually half of the F chord? Those notes are very close together. In fact, they share some of the same notes between the two chords. That sound of jumping around with it, they may not be what's best for the song that you're playing. If you can find 2 or 3 notes of each chord in one area of the guitar, the notes of each chord could sound like they're flowing into the next chord. That's called voice leading from one note to the next note, the line inside the chords. Let's talk about phrasing. Phrasing, making musical statements. Making small sentences with notes, using just the right notes to convey an idea. So if we have a scale pattern, that's all our notes, right? What notes from the scale do we use? And what's tasteful to use and what isn't? That depends a lot on different styles of players or different styles of music. But if your style calls for playing the notes of a scale up and down, hey, there you go. That's fine. That's your style of music. But the style of music of intermediate guitar players have been waiting for is something like that, where you just go up and down the scale all the time. But if you'd like to know what to limit yourself to, you need to study a little bit about phrasing. Phrasing is just the right notes to convey musical idea. Melody is the first place to look for phrasing. You listen to the melody of the song. I was just watching a Paul Gilbert, a concert of his, where he was playing a bunch of old classic rock songs and played all the melody on the guitar. And then he'd go back and forth. These only guitar players were going back and forth between the two. And it was wonderful to listen to. And you could hear, it didn't sound like just a shred guitar solo. It sounded like he was the singer for the band as he was playing the single notes. Why was that? Because these notes, the melody notes that we're all used to hearing, I think it was like a Fleetwood Mac song, and he was playing Stevie Nicks' part. It was awesome, right? And he sounded like her but the notes were very close together. They weren't big jumps, and there wasn't many of them. They were just the right notes for the song. So the first place to look for phrasing ideas is the actual melody of the song that you're learning or you're playing. Or a song that you would like to sound similar to. Once you look at a good amount of these songs, take your favorite songs, your favorite popular melodies, you'll start to see some things between them. Start to see some things that are similar. These are important. If you see something that's in one song that you like and you see the same thing in another song that you like, make a note of that. That's going to be part of your style, right? Say you imitate the melody of the song, you're going to fit your solo every single time, because it's going to match the song. Think about what the highest note is that the singer is singing, or what the lead instrument is singing if it's not a singer. Think about what the lowest note is. Is this scale a pentatonic scale, right? Does it fit with your pentatonic patterns, or is it a full scale? Does it change keys? What are those notes? Listen to the melody and find out what the rhythm is. So let's say I'm playing an A, and let's say the vocal melody sounds like this. Let's say that's the vocal melody of the song. Well, what's my highest note? My highest note is an E. And My lowest note is an A. So in between those notes, and it was a pentatonic scale. I could play something using those same notes in that same area that's going to fit the song. How about the rhythm? So this here, that's an idea I could steal and using the rest of the that rhythm there. I could take those two rhythms and make a whole solo out. That solo, taking those ideas from the main melody, is going to work over that song every single time. Okay, let's talk about licks. Analyzing licks. Learning licks from players in style music that you like can give you a wealth of information. Don't just learn them and move on. Run the same questions that we used for the melody. Run these questions for each lick that you learn. What's the highest note? What's the lowest note? Is it a pentatonic scale? Is it a full scale? How was it created? What's created? What was the rhythm? Does it hang on one note for a good amount of time? Right? Limiting yourself to these notes can free your mind of trying to remember everything you know on the guitar, all the scale patterns, so that you can be open to being creative with these questions that you've answered from the lick. Next, we're going to talk about strong versus weak notes. We talk about this all the time. You already know this. You just can't use any note in the scale to the, just playing the scale. If you're an A scale in the key of A, that's a flawed system. When you play up and down the scale, you have a 50-50 chance of hitting a note that works over top of whatever chord is going on, right? So you need to know a little bit about what those notes are and what chords you're playing over. You remember that from a few weeks ago. Playing single notes over a harmonic structure is a matching game. And if you pay no attention to it, you're going to sound like you're guessing. And that is not the attitude that you want to come across through the speakers or in your concert, right? So you need to know what the right note for the job is. And that's where the two sides of guitar playing, rhythm and lead, meet. They meet at the crossroads. And that's where magical things start to happen. If you find yourself right here in your lead playing, I have something that's going to open you up to this new world of confident soloing. It's called Solos That Make Sense. This is where you have complete control over all your note choices. You seamlessly move between strong and weak notes. You have control over tension and release, and you have access to the right exercises to build your lead guitar skills to pro level. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link in the description, or go over to playguitaracademy.com and find Solos That Make Sense. Okay, so think about your note choices. Think about learning from the songs that you like. Think about learning from the licks that you like. Think about limiting yourself, limiting your chord notes, playing fragments of chords. Think about not copying something, but taking the vibe from it and using it in different ways for your own. It's the way you're going to develop your own sound, your own style. And you can get it from the things that you love, and you should. You should. That's how everyone else has done it too. Okay, well, thank you for hanging out with me today. This was a lot of fun. I'm going to call it That's a Wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you have benefited from this podcast, please leave a favorable Apple Podcasts iTunes review. This is the best way to make sure we get this very valuable content to more players around the world. And if more help, structure, and results in your guitar playing sound good to you, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Play Guitar Academy. We just had our first masterclass, our monthly masterclass. We're having them every Monday, every first Monday of the month as we go on. It was awesome. And it was great to see everybody in there just learning and having fun. And I expect to see you over there so we can do this together. And I will go ahead and see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.